You guys are a very lively bunch. I like it. And as I was driving up here today, I was reminded that in high school, I was actually a Kiwanis Club Player of the Week in volleyball. So I have a connection to Kiwanis Club. So I appreciate that. So many of you probably know Sam Vincent as the face of the Boone project for many years. He kicked it off and he did so well that he was promoted. And so they've entrusted me with the responsibilities to carry this project across the finish line. So today I'll talk to you all a little bit about some of the things that we've done and where we are now, and then I'll open the floor for questions at the end. I have the construction manager, Clint Stanley, here with me today, and he's going to be my backbone and help me if I slip up a little bit. So this is actually my first time doing one of these. I'm really excited and nervous at the same time, but I think I'll be okay because y'all are smiling at me and making it easy. All right, so many of you know that back in October of 2014, a sinkhole was discovered at the Boone Dam, and it was located at the base of the earthen embankment. And so they did a repair on it, and then shortly after that, a muddy discharge was discovered. And the location of that discharge was in a location that you don't typically see seepage coming out. So that could have been a sign of a more serious issue. So at that time, TVA took measures to protect the downstream public by lowering the reservoir by 10 feet. They started their early drawdown. The image that's on the screen right now shows that muddy discharge that I mentioned. The image that's to, let's see, your left is the one that I'm speaking of, and then the image to the right just shows how it started clearing up when they lowered the reservoir. So after doing a study, they determined that the cause of the seepage was an issue called internal erosion. And what happens is water comes through, it picks up sediment, soil, and it carries it through. And if the water flow is higher, it'll take more material with it, which could wash out foundations. So that could be a serious issue if you have foundations being washed out underneath the dam. So TVA came up with a very extensive remediation plan to fix it, and the plan involved an extensive exploratory drilling and grouting program, the implementation of, well, I can't do it because I got this thing, but we built stability berms on the upstream and downstream of the earthen embankment. And then the major piece of construction was a diaphragm wall. The diaphragm wall is this one that you see up here in the corner. And this image right here in the middle shows a larger cutout of what that diaphragm wall looked like. Those little gray balls represent the low mobility grout that was installed and poured in. And then down here, I'm just gonna move, this lighter part, that's the high mobility grout that was inserted into the dam. So this first phase of the project was the exploratory drilling and grouting. It was an around-the-clock operation. The only thing they ever stopped for was lightning. As you can see, they're working in the middle of snow, and it was coming down pretty heavily. And the picture to the right just shows some of the equipment that was used to drill, do the verification borings, and to grout. Some of the key statistics that relate to that, they drilled 539 low mobility grout holes and 315 high mobility grout holes were drilled. If you were to lay the linear footage of those holes out, it would span 23 miles. So that kind of gives you a feel for, how deep they were and how much drilling was involved. 243 concrete truckloads of grout were placed during that operation. So it was just constant and steady the whole time. I see a hand in the back.
How big were those holes in diameter?
Those holes in diameter are 50 inches in diameter. There's a slide coming up that'll actually show some of the details on that. One of the other features that was installed is the upstream and downstream stability berms. And these berms were installed because they knew there would be a lot of loads on top of that earthen embankment with trucks and heavy equipment. So they wanted to make sure that earthen embankment was still stable. They also wanted to make more room for the work platform, just to give them more space to have equipment on top of the embankment and get the work performed. So the image that's showing now is the upstream berm post-construction. Approximately 160,000 tons of rock replaced. It's a lot of that's a lot of truckloads coming in. And then on the downstream, they ended up placing 60,000 tons of rock, and that's what it looks like post-construction. What you see now is a plan view of the cutoff wall. This was the major feature of the design. What the cutoff wall's purpose is to provide a seepage barrier. And it's composed of secant piles. On this image, the blue circles represent the primary piles. And like I said before, those were like 50 inches in diameter. They drilled all of those first, and then they came in and they did the secondary piles, which are represented by the red circles. And they do that to make sure that you're having that you're totally cutting off the wall. Like you're making a complete barrier, so that flow can't come through. So this wall is the primary means that's keeping flow from coming underneath the dam right now. Let's see. As it relates to the cutoff wall, these are a few images of the mobilization and the construction. The top one is at the beginning for when mobilization was starting, and the one on the right is the construction phase. And like I said, this was probably the most expensive feature of the project. The cutoff wall was about $106 million alone. And they installed 307 design cutoff wall elements. So a lot of engineering was involved in that, a lot of time to get that one done. And just so you get a feel for it, there were like 215 employees on site supporting that operation. And 3,300 trucks were placed. So a lot of work was involved with that, a lot of people coming in and out. I think one of the highlights of the project was when the lake was restored to normal pool. That happened in July of 2021. And this is just an image of one of the areas you can see how low it was, and then you see it post restoration of the pool. During the time when the lake was drawn down, a lot of vegetation grew up around people's properties. TVA worked with the Boone Lake Association and the BDRC to mulch areas and clear vegetation and do lake cleanup. They collected a lot of materials out of the lake. 320 barge loads of vegetation were collected between the times of March 2021 and July 2021. At this time, the Boone Lake Association is basically spearheading that operation, and TVA will help as needed. So where are we now? If you go to Boone Dam right now, there used to be a sound barrier wall there. That wall has been taken down. And right now we're in the process of building the flood wall. I love this image here. I thought it was pretty cool. My kids also like this. This is showing a pump truck, a concrete pump truck, as it's doing a pour to insert concrete into that flood wall. And the flood wall is basically putting back some of the material that was cut out during the construction. Some of the site restorations are also in progress, and what we're trying to do at this point is get the site restored to a condition that was as good and preferably better than what it was before we got this work started. And we're going to do some things that will definitely benefit the public and make the Boone Dam area a real nice place to visit. Oh, and I forgot to tell you all, the cutoff wall was completed on time, and we did that in January 2021. Kind of forgot that part. All right, so one of the upcoming features of the project that we haven't done yet is at the beginning of the project, they had to put a temporary filter in, and this is in this area right here. They did that right before they started the construction, but that temporary filter has to come out. And so when it does come out, there will be some kind of muddy discharge. It's not related to the original problem, but it'll just be a matter of them doing that work in that area. So if fishermen, anglers, people are out, they will notice it, but it's to be expected. So that portion of the work's supposed to be done around the July time frame. So we're getting close to being there, and we're still expecting to have the site open to the public in May of 2022. So one of the biggest things about the project, and I love after being here today, is the community relations piece. During this time of the project, the Boone Dam staff, construction workers, laborers, everybody got involved. They've done a lot of stuff in the community. They participated in the Boone Lake cleanup every year. They've done Toys for Tots, and they've been the largest corporate contributor during this time. And they've also done the Second Harvest Food Bank each year. And we're the largest corporate donor for that as well. And those community partnerships, I'm sure even after this project is over, will continue to go on. So also along those lines of the reservoir, we have some planned fluctuations that will continue through July of 2022. And what that's doing is allowing us to see the reservoir go through all of the phases of raising and lowering to ensure that the designed elements are performing as they should. And our instrumentation data right now is showing that everything is working as it should, so that makes us really proud because they put a lot of work and design into it. On this slide, there's also some websites for useful information if there's things that you all want to go back and look at, like the lake elevations, if you have questions about vegetation management or anything like that, you can see some of those sites. And that takes us through my portion of the presentation. If you have some questions, I'll field those now.